Welcome to the Hot Lava Podcast. Kevin Acee, Padres beat writer for the Union-Tribune. Ryan Finley, sports editor of the Union-Tribune, is with me back in San Diego. What seemed like a very long road trip, and it was not. But Padres went 3-3. They are now home to face the Rockies, the last place. Do you even need to say that anymore? The last place Rockies. And where would you like to start, Ryan?
I think I'd like to start with just kind of the news and as we record this, I need to preface all of this by saying as we record this, this is what we know. We may know more later. Padres 3-game series in Oakland. They took in Sacramento against the A's. They took 2 out of 3, but managed to lose a couple of their best players. Jackson Merrill's been put on the IL with a hamstring issue. Fernando Tatis Jr. appeared to aggravate his shoulder on a swing and missed Wednesday's finale. The same goes for Jake Cronenworth, who got drilled in the ribs in Chicago and appeared to aggravate something while playing the A's there. What do we know about these guys? And if we're ranking them in order of stuff we should not be concerned about to stuff we should be concerned about, where does all of this fit?
Well, it's a really interesting question. I'm really glad that you put it that way. I'm going to put Tatis at the top,
Yeah.
even though you expect him back in the lineup based on the last that we have been told. You expect him back in the lineup possibly tonight, sometime this weekend. It's Fernando Tatis Jr. and he has an injury history, and I try to really err on the side of caution to that. I think that injury history or injury prone is thrown out there too much, and it's unfair sometimes. Okay. And maybe it is in this instance, but I got to point out, there's an injury history there, right? And this was the left shoulder, which was surgically repaired. He says he felt it once before, sometime working out, but never on the field like this. Everyone, I think, I shouldn't say everyone. A lot of people saw the video of him wincing as he swung. Now he took a swing. After that, he said it didn't hurt, didn't look like it. He took another swing in his next at bat before he left the game. Fly ball, didn't look like it hurt, said it didn't hurt. So those are positives. But the idea that Fernando is aggravated or, has this irritation in his shoulder, to me, is number one. But you could argue Jackson Merrill, right? He's on the injured list. But I'm telling you, he's never limped. Really, he seems to be walking fine. I really believe this was a 10-day scenario back on Friday against the Astros, next Friday against the Astros. And then you would say Jake Cronenworth, that hit him in a really vulnerable spot, kind of like kidney area. He called it kidney-ish. And he said it was hurt more than any pitch he's ever been hit by. It was a 94-mile-an-hour fastball. He's been hit by harder, but it hurt. And that, there's a lot of fluid and buildup in there, and it just got aggravated. And so he should be back in there tonight. So there you go.
Yeah. Tatis, is the thing that jumps out at me too. In part because it is that surgically repaired shoulder, right? I mean, Kevin, it seems like half a lifetime ago, there was a time when Fernando Tatis was wearing a sling. What's the right term for it? A harness, because to keep his shoulder from popping out. And we assume that the surgery now makes it harder and harder for that shoulder to come out. But obviously, if this is something that's bothered him in the past, it's been surgically repaired, and you see him kind of wince, that's where my head went the first time too, which was when I saw that video, I went, oh, that's his bad shoulder.
Yep. And if you want to be optimistic, he led the National League with 42 home runs in 2021. But I think we're on the same page here. It's just, it gives you an uneasy feeling, I would think, if you're the Padres fans.
Right. And as we've talked about this before, the only thing keeping Fernando Tatis from being a premier player in baseball year in and year out is Fernando Tatis's ability it's his availability, right? That's an ability, right? That's one of those old sports writing cliches. But when he's healthy, he's great. The issue is just that he hasn't been healthy for long stretches in his career. And if this is something that you're going to have to keep an eye on, and we're going to have to keep an eye on, and it's only April, that may not bode well for his 2025 season.
It may not. And so I think we have we have laid that out. But it's really sort of this nebulous feeling that makes it, and because he's so important, makes it seem so bad, right? But maybe then it's nothing, or it's not anything that pops up again. But it just feels weird.
Right. And, whether it's baseball, football, soccer, whatever, anytime a hamstring is involved, it's always good to be
Yep.
cautious. You don't want slight hamstring things to get worse because then we're talking about weeks and weeks and weeks. This really does seem precautionary with Merrill.
It's really got to be the smart thing to do because you talk to any ball players, like not only can hamstrings go weeks and weeks and weeks, like it can be something your whole career if you're just like fighting it all the time, right? And
Mhm.
just constant treatment and constant wrapping. And
Mhm.
so you're 21 years old, right? Like
Mhm.
going to be a Padre for a long time, right? Really important to get ahead of that.
Right. Did you see the video of Mike Talkman this week getting thrown out at home for the White Sox
I
with
did
what would have
not.
been the go-ahead run?
I
He had
did
come
not.
off the IL that day with a hamstring issue and
Oh,
re-aggravated it, running
oh,
through third, trying to score,
oh.
and just came up, like he had been shot.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean that's the thing you're trying to avoid, right? You get him
Yep.
off
Just
his
want to
feet for a few
say
days.
that there
Mhm.
was, I don't think that Jackson played in Colorado the first trip last year with a
Okay.
hamstring thing that they got ahead of and
Mhm.
only had him out like 2 or 3 games or something. But I'm
Right.
not saying they're related at all, except, same body, same leg.
Mhm.
So absolutely the right thing to do and good for them, right?
Mhm.
A's and Rockies are 6 of the 9 games that he'll miss.
Right. Right. If you can't beat the A's and Rockies with your club, even without Jackson or without Jackson Merrill, Padres might have bigger problems. And let's talk about that A's series, Kevin. Um, Man, that was a weird series. And I
Yeah.
say this watching on TV from here. I was not in West Sacramento with you. It was like watching a college game on TV, maybe like watching a spring training game. They
Did
didn't
the
play
lighting
particularly
show
well.
up as bad?
What's up?
Did the lighting show up as bad?
Yes, it looked dark,
Okay.
real dark.
Yeah. I don't
Um,
think, people understand how different, like a major league ballpark is like daylight at night.
mhm,
That's the
mhm,
requirements.
yeah, yeah, yeah. It's my takeaway, at least, and tell me I'm wrong. I, I don't think they played very well at all. I thought they pitched fairly terribly, and they still took 2 of 3. What were your takeaways from sort of a weird series in Sacramento?
Yeah, that would be about it. Again, that's why you say, look, you were 1.5 games without Cronenworth and Tatis, 3 games without Merrill. You took 2 of 3. I think you'd take that against anyone. It's still a major league team. I think it's got the A's, the Athletics, whatever. They seem to be a lot more firm on athletics now than they were the Athletics. They're a
Mhm,
young team, got a good young
mhm,
talent,
mhm,
and that But right now, yeah, they're
mhm.
not like dangerous, and so you did what you were supposed to do. I thought both the Cubs and the Athletic series, there were things that were just definitely not as good. Now, if you're going to measure it against 7-0, every bounce
Right,
going your way, every smart play being made for the most part, like then you are
mhm,
going to be disappointed, right?
right,
But
right.
the fact is, they just didn't play as well, and there were just some miscues, things that don't show up in the box score. But the pitching is where you have to start. The
Yeah,
starting pitchers. I mean, from Sunday, well, I mean, the whole thing really, except
mhm,
Randy Vasquez threw, 5 strong innings, and the bullpen came through. Bullpen certainly came through. When it was asked to, the final 3 wins. But the starting pitching is very, very, very troubling. Nick Pivetta went 3, and gave up 3 runs, walked 3.
mhm,
Kyle Hart, I mean, we don't even need to talk about his start. It was so bad. It
right,
was one of those where you just, if you're the Padres, you're hoping, yeah, that was just one of those days he didn't have it. I mean, he
right,
just didn't have it. Goes
right.
2/3 of an inning, walks 4 guys in the first inning. He's out of there. He pitches again this weekend, Saturday. So I think this is a very important turn through the rotation.
Yeah, to me, it's really easy to look at the weather when they were in Colorado or in Chicago, right? It
Mm-hmm.
was weird. It
Yeah.
was cold. Really easy to look at the ballpark and the weird situation in
Yeah.
West Sacramento. But man, this is a bad trend. It being April, I can't imagine that if they are this bad again, another turn through the rotation, that they wouldn't start looking at maybe other options.
Can, and it's on my notes to look later, maybe check with Jeff Sanders, see what's happening down there at AAA. I know Kolek started strong. Look, Matt Waldron hasn't started throwing yet, or if he has in the last couple days, that still means he's a long ways away. Yu Darvish, at least 3 weeks, I would say, even if he's off a mound yesterday, which he may have been. You know, he's been down for a month, so it's lot of buildup there. So yeah, if they can, I think you're absolutely right. I mean, Kyle Hart, you would think that every time he pitches, it's a little bit of a referendum on whether, you know, he's got another start or two before they send him down to work on some things. So very positive from Randy Vasquez. You know, Dylan Cease was in the strike zone, was a little too in the strike zone. And, you know, it's a very, very important turn through, as important as a turn through the rotation could be in April.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, they could just go to 4, couldn't they? Do the off days spread out in a way where you could?
I would have to look that up. That would be interesting. Maybe 4.5. You know what I mean? Like where you could one time. It's certainly not what you want to do. With. You know, you want to, because there will come times where you can't do that. You know, all of a sudden you've got 13 in a row, 26 and 27. I would have to look to see, and I do this a lot when times like this, to see where do those off days, you know, come up. They certainly would need all 5 through this homestand, and then you get off Thursday. So that will give your, you know, Michael King would come back, Cease would come back, and I don't think, if I'm just doing off the top of my head, I don't think that works out because of how those guys are going to get like an extra day anyway, and then be required to pitch again in Detroit after the Astros series, which starts the next road trip, which comes after the next off day. So I don't think so, but I'll do the math later.
Yeah, to me, that's interesting. And I'm just thinking about guys in their bullpen right now. Their sort of default long guy is who?
Well, it's Logan Gillespie right now.
Right.
Because he had to be called up because of just the disastrous starts that occurred, and they had to rely, you know, too much on Omar Cruz, Alec Jacob. So
right. So it would be him as Gillespie. I don't know. Maybe we're getting too far ahead of ourselves here. Maybe.
It's a good conversation, but we have to, like, this turn through the rotation. Let's let it play out.
Yes. And again, it's April, right? Sample sizes still really small. It seems like all the success that they've had, and again, one of the best teams in baseball, right? We're couching a lot of that with, yes, but it's early, right? Some of these struggles too, you can sit there and go, yeah, but it's early. You know, it's most of these guys should return to what their baseball card says they are.
And I'll tell you what Mike Schilt would say, and I think maybe there's a little validity. They're 10-3 now. What you and I are doing is what the media, what a fan base, and what the team does. When you have high expectations, you look for, okay, where can we get better? And this is the place.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. This is a weird opponent. Speaking of strange, you know, they go straight from playing the A's to playing the Rockies. The Rockies have sort of had a permanent spot at the bottom of the National League West standings here for years. But this is a club that seems to give the Padres more trouble than most. Any way to explain that?
Familiarity, some guys who, you know, felt good against, fortunately for the Padres, Charlie Blackmon has retired. Because even in the last few years, when he wasn't Charlie Blackmon, the guy had like a 750 OPS, and you know, what that was like the occasional crucial home run or double that he would get against the Padres. They do still have Ryan McMahon, who kills them pretty good. I got to tell you, they got to be glad that Randall Grichuk is not there, because he would kill them. He was one of those guys that like you it wasn't a great player, right? It was just a guy. But if you saw him against the Padres, you'd think he was in the All-Star game every year. So Brenton Doyle, a good young player, has done very well again. They have guys that just have played well, and then they're, you know, that familiarity, they say, is like a real thing. Now, that should work for the Padres too. So even last year, right, where the Padres eventually caught fire and beat all the teams they were supposed to, they had a losing record against the Rockies. Year before, they had a winning record. But I think then go back to 22, 21 losing records against the Rockies. So, and that includes, so that's 2 of the 4 playoff years that they had a losing record against the Rockies. And it's not just at Coors Field. There's some disastrous things at Coors Field. But you got to, if you're going to have a losing record against the team, it's also going to come at home too. So, it is. It's just, you go, oh, the Rockies. It's a division opponent. That's how the Padres will explain it.
Sure. And when the Padres were where the Rockies are now as a franchise, right? They played certain teams tough. They always played the Dodgers tough. As bad as the Padres were when they were bad, certain matchups just, it seems like certain teams just match up better against other teams.
Yeah, this one is weird because the Padres never had a winning record against the Dodgers during those bad years of the 2000, the teens, whatever those are called, the tens. This is just, it is a weird one. It's the first thing I think of every time you go, oh, the Rockies. Okay. Oh, wow. Yeah, they stink. But I mean, they are so lost, it seems, right? Like Chris Bryant has like 2 hits, right? They get this guy. Why do they even sign a guy like that? They got all these young guys. They want to say they're rebuilding finally, that like it's a bunch of young guys, but look, what they've done here, I think, is they got swept by the Phillies and they've lost every other series, 2-1. I think it was the Rays, the Brewers, and the Athletics. The Athletics went to Colorado and beat them. So not a good start, 3-9.
Right.
But Kyle Freeland is pitching. And he, decent against the Padres. German Marquez is back. I think, he started pretty well. He had TJ surgery. He only made 1 start last year after having Tommy John in August or something of 23. And then you got this kid, Chase Dollander, on Saturday, who is making his 2nd start after making his debut a week ago.
Sure. Padres will counter with Nick Pivetta tonight. I'm looking at sort of the official pitching matchups for Saturday and Sunday, and it's got TBA on both of those for the Padres.
Oh, they're going to stay on turn. It's Hart and King.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep. Yeah. I saw that this morning, but just double check my writer's text chain here. But I'm, that is rotation staying on turn for Colorado series. Pivetta, Hart, King.
There we go. And again, for Pivetta and Hart especially, you got to think that there's going to be some comfort in pitching at Petco Park, a place, especially in Pivetta's case, Petco Park at night in the spring and not the summer, tends to knock balls down in the outfield. He's a fly ball pitcher.
Well, it's not going to be, the Cubs are amazing. Like, yes. I have rarely seen a team lay off everything virtually. Right. Everything. And they really did that to Pivetta. They certainly did it to Hart, though. He didn't throw any that were, you and I would have laid off that because we would have gone up there looking for that no matter who we were facing. But he wasn't anywhere near the strike zone. But the Cubs were incredible, and they've been against everybody. I mean, they're seeing more pitches than anyone, getting more walks than anyone. It's really remarkable. They're chasing less than anyone, like by far. At least they were a couple days ago when I looked it up. So he's got a more favorable opponent as well.
Right. Can I ask you, and this isn't on our sort of pre-show rundown here, but it just struck me as something I'd like to talk to you about. What is your opinion so far been of first base and first base defense? We've seen a couple situations already where guys have just tripped over Luis Ariza's leg at first. It was the A's. Oh gosh, A's have a really good young player that looked really scary in real time.
Yeah, I was surprised no one came out of that hurt. Yeah.
Yeah. It's, to me, he does not look like a natural, but maybe I'm just used to watching a lot of Jake Cronenworth down there. Are we at a point yet where it's a concern?
Again, it's one of those things that because they're 10-3 and they expect to be a World Series contender, yes, like it's a thing to keep an eye on. The question is, what do you do, right? Like, Jake, where do you put, is Luis your DH? Well, what's Gavin Sheets doing then? Is he playing first? I mean, and is that only against right-handed starters? Because yes, Jake's better at first, but he's also far better at second. Luis's defense had improved quite a bit. Some of the mistakes that have really stood out aren't errors maybe, but they're him going for, that ball that the first baseman goes for when he's too far over. Just let the second baseman get it, and then you cover first or have the pitcher cover first. Luis is a very eager beaver over there at first place or at first base. He looks like he has to go to the bathroom in between innings. He wants to get that over with, man. Right. Luis looks like a little boy over there playing and is a little boy with ants in his pants. And right. I think that has gotten the better of him a few times. I think he's better than maybe some people think, but the evidence wouldn't necessarily be there to support what I just said this start, except he's made some nice plays to save Manny. Manny, as good as Manny's been, Luis had to make some catches on a few throws. So that's nice. But yeah, I think it's something that they're keeping an eye on. The question becomes, so what do you do?
Yeah, what's the corresponding move? Well, and I mean, we talked about this on the last episode. And again, they're 10-3. They're 10-3. But there are expectations here that this is a playoff team. And so we need to address some of this stuff. Are we anywhere closer? Do we have more of a larger sample size on Jason Hayward or on Yuli Gurriel? Because, right, those are two of the guys that might be affected if they would have to move some pieces around to make a rise to DH.
Yeah, I still say we're in a waiting pattern, though. Again, it's never too early, and in particular, maybe on Yuli Gurriel, the at bats. He's up there. He's taking professional at bats, but the results aren't there, and I don't know if the swing is. Jason Hayward. The thing you got to remember about Jason Hayward, he has never looked good. Like he never looks like a smooth ball, a smooth hitter. He's actually starting to come around. He might be hitting like 280 in his last 5 games or something like that, like 6 for 19 or something like that. Or I don't know what it is, but it's certainly better than 0 for 10 that he started and 1 for 13 that he started. So I think that I've always said May 1st for these guys. That's not to say it wouldn't happen earlier, but May 1st, they could be starting every day and killing it, doing okay, or off the team by May 1st. That's just something that's what I call my educated speculation. As in, I talk to a lot of people and I get a read on kind of, what things. But that's always been my thing, that it's something that we need to look at here in the first month.
Right. And we wouldn't be having this conversation if there weren't guys in AAA who, with big league experience, Oscar Gonzalez kind of saved their bacon here, right? When they were in Sacramento to play Oakland. That's a weird sentence. When they called up Oscar Gonzalez, he comes through with some big hits, looks the part, looks like a big leaguer, somebody who maybe you don't want to run him out there every day, but certainly helped on a day when they really needed a professional at bat.
Agreed. And they might, give him more this is a guy that the Guardians ran out every day in 22. They might want to see if that was a flash in the pan, but he was excellent for the Guardians and a playoff hero. So he did. And you've got Connor Joe down there who they got for a reason because he could play a lot of places and give you quality at bats. Everyone keeps talking about Tirso Ornelas. Think they got a little excited, been in the organization a long time, almost a native, he's a Tijuana native. So, it's close to home and started spring strong. But, and I think he'll be up soon, but right now it's guys that you would want, that have major league experience, that have some sort of history, unless Tirso's starts to tear it up down there.
And you've got Tyler Wade and you've got Eggy Rosario.
Rosario. That's right. I knew when I was cutting it off there, I said, I'm forgetting someone very important. Not that Tyler Wade's not, but Eggy. Yeah.
Right. And we talk about Eggy on here a lot. If you're looking for a guy who
you talk about Eggy on here a lot.
Yes. I talk about Eggy on here a lot. How about that? Is that better? If you're looking for a guy who can hit a lefty, maybe he's an option as an outfielder. They thought he might have been early in spring training and then they pivoted away. Lots of pieces in AAA who could come up and help, which is probably applying just a little bit more pressure on some of those decisions with regards to both Gurriel and Hayward.
Yeah, like I said with what's your option at first? And if you don't have one, you're going to be more patient there.
Mhm.
Like what you're saying now, it's like the opposite of that. If you have other options and guys are doing well and you have judged, and by the way, they scout AAA heavily and they rely on their coaching staff because the numbers don't tell you a lot in the Pacific Coast League. So
No.
it's also important to remember to, like, do they think the guy is playing well?
Right.
It's not just, does he have a 1200 OPS? Because guys have come
Sure.
up here with 1200 OPSs and gone 1 for 7.
Austin Hedges crushed it in El Paso. Crushed it. And yeah, it was never that guy in the big leagues. Kevin, we're coming up on our time here. Before I let you go, just tell our listeners about Sacramento. You've been a lot of places, you've been a lot of countries to cover baseball, and then you went to Sacramento.
Not quite a third world country. No, listen, I hate that I'm being this guy. I wanted to go there and be like, oh, this is quaint. This is neat. The working conditions were bad. And I'm going to be the one who acknowledges like my experience and fans' experience, like completely different, right? Your master bedroom is bigger than the visiting clubhouse for the players.
Wow.
The visiting clubhouse was in center field. It just was small. The lighting was bad. The atmosphere. Look, you don't have the amenities you have. You don't have the big the stuff for the scoreboard, right? Like you just don't. And it is Sacramento. There's a reason they've got the Kings there. And if you pay attention to like the NBA, there's a lot of sort of secondary markets that the NBA is in that other major leagues are not in. It just wasn't a big league atmosphere. That's all I can say. It's just sad. And it's not like the Rays, who are playing in what my understanding is perhaps the best minor league ballpark, still a minor league ballpark, a little bigger than this one, but like it was a natural disaster is why the Rays are playing in the Yankees, spring training home, Steinbrenner Field. This is because of things that did and did not happen in Oakland, and this team will be there for 3 years at the least. And it's just a weird, bad situation. And let me say this. I guess the fans were having fun. I mean, and the people that are working there and the A's employees are working really hard to try to make it as best as it can be. It's just not a big league atmosphere.
Yeah. My one takeaway is the one thing that seems to have carried over from Oakland. Music seemed good. There's some traditions from Oakland that I think have followed them up there. But even just watching from over here, man, it was strange. It's like watching one of those. It seemed to me
that these fans were impressed by a lot of things that maybe a major league crowd, like there would be some sort of routine plays or hard hit balls. And even with there being far fewer fans, and that's the other thing, they're not selling this place out. Now, I realize it was a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, but there's 14,000 seats. Like they were getting 9. But they were like, it was almost louder or more like excited about fairly routine things. I thought that was kind of cool. So, okay. I mean, like I said, I'm sure that the kids going there having a great time. It just was not a big league team should not be playing there.
So does this slot all the way to the bottom of your list of favorite and least favorite ballparks in the major leagues?
Oh, by far. And if I could tell you that since Denver's airport is in Iowa, and it's a pain in the butt to make it after on a getaway day, and I dislike what has happened at Denver downtown. To put something below Denver it means a lot.
So Sacramento, Denver. Give me the one that's right above Denver. And then
I love my job and I love ballparks. So it's really hard for me to rip a place. It really is. Right. And by the way, Coors Field is awesome. It just happens to be a mile high. And even with the pitch clock, games can get a little out of hand there. And that's just not cool. But I mean, I don't mind when I'm inside the ballpark for the most part there. I don't really have a third because I absolutely love every ballpark that I go to. Like I love things. Now, there was also the contrast. You walk into Wrigley Field at the time that I get there and it's empty and you're walking down the brick lined hallways and just you are in a cathedral. And so maybe that was there, I talked about stoicism. Maybe that was there, I had this, subconscious bias that I was going to a minor league ballpark after being at the Holy Grail. I don't know. I'm just telling you, it was not a big league atmosphere.
I was going to say you went from one end of the spectrum to the other, going from Chicago.
Oh, Wrigley is just, it's so marvelous. It's amazing.
Yeah, it's great. Even when it's 40 degrees, huh?
Well, I was in probably 55, 50, 55. I would say that they attempted to heat the press box, the writers area. So it wasn't terrible. To be out on the field, to be swinging a wood bat, that would have been, yeah. Everybody but the relievers. I don't know if you saw my item there. The bullpen is heated there. The relievers actually come out in between innings to get acclimated to the cold because the bullpens there are heated.
Yeah, doesn't seem like a good place to get hit in the ribs. How about that?
That's true, and that was a cold one. That was a cold one. But yes, the answer to the question: anything short of snow, and I probably would still think Wrigley was beautiful if it were snowing.
Yep, absolutely. Well, that'll do it for this episode of the Hot Lava Podcast. Padres Rockies 3-game series starting tonight at Petco Park, 6:40. Nick Pivetta back on the mound. Kevin, we'll talk to you here on Monday. For Kevin Acee, I'm Ryan Finley. We'll see you next time.